Hey Bart, good to have you on the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me. It's good to
Yeah,
see
it's
you.
it's an honor, man. I've been a long time fan, and lately I've been seeing some new releases from you coming up, and that was the trigger for me. Like, hey, maybe this is the right time and the right moment for him to come on the show and to talk about what he's been doing lately.
Yeah, cool. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah. So to everyone who doesn't know you, because I know you for probably like 12 years, 14 years,
Yeah,
something like that. We actually, like we talked before, we actually never spoke to each other in real life, but I played a lot of your tracks, and I've been following you all that time. So
yeah. We might have crossed paths somewhere, but we never
probably,
really got to have a deep conversation like
yeah,
today, which is great.
yeah, exactly,
This is cool.
yeah. Because at that time, can you tell us a bit more about how it all started for you? Because most of the people probably know you from what you're doing right now,
Yeah,
from your latest releases, but you didn't get there by doing nothing. Like something happened before that period.
yeah. I've been kind of in this game for a while now,
Mm-hmm.
over 10 years at least.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it didn't just happen for me overnight. So I had to work at my music for a very long time. Took me years to perfect my
Yeah.
my production, to say so. But um, yeah, it's I started with like really basic software. At the time, we were lucky because the software was going through like this revolution
Yeah.
where it became much easier to make music that you could actually listen to in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took me quite a few years to send out demos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2007, I believe, I finally got lucky because Mark Knight from Toolroom Records in the UK
Yeah.
decided to pick up a couple of tracks of mine.
Oh, that's
And
true. I remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
2007.
It's
And
12 years ago. Oh no, 11 years ago.
yeah, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, that release got picked up by Pete Tong, who made one of the tracks, is Essential New Tune on BBC Radio 1.
Which track
And
was that?
So it goes.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Th- no, I like that one.
yeah. And back then, I don't know if I'm sure Pete Tong is still like a very influential person in the dance music industry.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, if you had an essential new tune, then that really was a really big thing.
Yeah.
So from there, it started moving for me. Um, I had a remix also of Sandy Riviera. I did a
Mm-hmm.
remix for him, which also became Pete Tong's essential new tune like 2 weeks after or something.
Yeah, and
So
that's
all of
like
a sudden I was like, bam, one track got essential new tune, and then the other one as well, and then things really started to go from
yeah.
there, and all of a sudden I was on people's radar, you know.
And
So
how did Mark Knight ending up like contacting you? Because did he just came out of nothing, or do you know that how he found you?
no, actually I emailed him.
Oh really?
I found his email somewhere. I can't remember, but I just sent out some demos by email,
Okay,
just
that
hoping
still
hoping
that still
someone
worked
would
at that
bite.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
perfect. Okay,
I
and
guess
then
the inboxes weren't flooded back then,
yeah,
so you
yeah,
still had a chance.
different times. I thought So It Goes was released on Sneakers, but it was released on Toolroom.
Tool room, yeah,
Okay, nice. Yeah, I still think the BBC show it still runs. It's still pretty influential, I think, but not as influential as it has been in those years.
yeah,
But that's because the market has been scattered with all these bigger blogs and stuff. Like there's more
yeah.
influential people now, I
There's
think.
also so many producers,
Yeah,
way more than 10 years ago. So
yeah. So
um,
from there,
yeah,
everything took off. You had two BBC Essential, yeah,
yeah,
things, tracks,
yeah. And
and then,
because that was the UK, I started to travel a lot to the UK to play gigs in the
Mhm.
weekends. So 2007, 2008, I almost only found myself in the UK for an entire year, just playing gigs,
Yeah,
which was a lot of fun. I think I was 23 at the time,
that's
so I
young,
wasn't
man.
actually, yeah, I wasn't. these days there are kids that are like 16 and they're blowing up, so
Yeah.
I guess it's I was lucky to not have that at 16 because I don't know what would have happened
Yeah.
if I had that success at that time. But I don't know, it went the way it went, and I'm really happy how it went. So
How did you experience that time? Because you already said like it was great, but did it had an effect on you? Like privately seeing, like did you change as a person, or did you make choices differently because of that? Or
um, yeah, not really. Like a lot of stuff is happening, but you're kind of on this like super high where just everything is cool,
hmm
and you're just kind of riding on that. And so definitely the first years, that's the case, and you just like you keep on going, and
yeah,
you just kind of get into a plane and go places, and life just happens to you. You don't really think about it.
yeah, totally. I totally relate to it. As in, I had the same thing. I
Yeah,
woke
it's
up 10
like
years later, like, whoa, where am I?
yeah, it's like you're a kid in the candy store, right? And then
Yeah.
you just indulge in
hmm
candy, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe I ate too much candy.
yeah, exactly. So that was your which year was that? 2009 or something like that?
Yeah, so I think I had a peak around 2007, 2008, and
Okay.
yeah, one of the peaks. Yeah,
And what changed in that time? Because now you're still doing the same thing, as in you're still making music, you're still traveling. To me, I still remember that playing abroad at that period was a thing, like was a
yeah,
big thing.
yeah,
Right now, I get the feeling that it's easier to play abroad than it's to play in the Netherlands.
yeah.
So how did you experience it right now? Like what changed in that period of time?
Yeah, it's totally different. Back then, it was. I feel like there was like just so much going on in Holland. Holland really was its own bubble with this huge dance scene at the time, and we were playing all these parties. Well, you were as well. Um, sometimes you had like 5 shows a night, and you just would drive from town to town in Holland and just like play show after show. And that got noticed. Like there was so much happening in Holland, so more and more producers were coming out of Holland, and all of a sudden they just kind of started noticing us. Like we were still like doing our own thing,
Yeah.
and then yeah, they started noticing us. And like I said, Pitong was one of the first to play my music on BBC Radio One. So yeah, they started to get the Dutch guys to play in the UK and also everywhere else.
Yeah.
So they really started to pay attention to Holland at that time. And I remember that I was, we were playing those parties, the sneakers parties,
hmm
Nope is Dope, and we'd have like guys like Afrojack and Hardwell and Laidback Luke on those parties.
Yeah.
And I was already the one that was going to the UK and stuff. And
Which is weird
they,
right now. Yeah.
yeah, it was really weird. And they were saying like, "Oh my God, you played in the UK? That's so awesome! Like, I hope to get there one day, And then all of a sudden, they just went sky high,
Yeah.
and just it took off for them. But
So at that period, it was really hard to get a gig abroad. Um, and did you play more places outside of United Kingdom or?
yeah, because a lot of countries pay attention to the UK scene as well, so
hmm
they're interested in what's going on there. And this is kind of like an old-fashioned way to talk about it, by the way, because I feel like no one's paying attention to territories anymore
Yeah.
as much as they used to.
True.
Because now it's just like it doesn't matter where you're from, because you can just put your music everywhere, and yeah, it doesn't really matter. But back then there were still like all these bubbles, like all these scenes.
hmm
There was one in the UK and there was one in Holland. And when the UK was starting to get interested in the Dutch scene, then all of a sudden, yeah, you're also going to Ibiza and like everywhere else in Europe, really.
Yeah.
And there was, yeah, the French had their own scene, right? There was like the French touch, and then Ed Banger was huge in like the 2007, 2008, obviously. And yeah, I did some things with a few French labels, so I started playing in France a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and also Germany. So I was just in Europe most of the time, and the US came later
Okay.
when they really started to embrace Dutch house and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when the US really took off for me. That's
Cool.
yeah.
Because that's where your first momentum was created at, in the Dutch house period. I think Dutch house was the maybe I'm just saying it wrong, but I think the Dutch house scene was the start of this whole EDM thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Like
That's kind of what it was born out of.
yeah, and if you have a listen to, at least I think the fun thing is right now, like I keep hearing tracks that are being released right now that are still influenced by tracks from that period.
Yeah, yeah. It was a good time for Dutch house music,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you had some momentum there, and what happened then?
Well, that was a hard time for me after like the whole Dutch house blew up, and it was kind of when that had worn out. People were kind of looking for a different direction. For
Mm-hmm.
everyone was thinking about, so what's next, right? So that's when the whole like the EDM stuff came up, and that's where I kind of got lost because all of a sudden I felt like I was being pushed into a direction that I didn't really want to be in.
Yeah,
It wasn't the type of music that I loved making, and which yeah, where I wanted to go, like that direction. So I really had to take a step back and think about, what do I want to do? What kind of music do I want to make? And yeah, at the same time, it was kind of the moment where you, like I said, when that kid in the candy store, right?
yeah,
And you kind of just feel like you had too much candy. So I yeah, I really had to think about what I was gonna do in my career because I wasn't gonna do the same thing over and over again,
yeah,
right? You need challenges. You need to keep yourself motivated.
yeah. And you didn't want to follow the trend.
No,
Yeah,
well, yeah, I just at some point when you're playing all these huge stages and stuff, it really kind of like messes with your head as well because
mm-hmm.
you get all this attention, right? And like you're in the spotlight. So yeah, that's really kind of like a drug, really, that you yeah, it gets you on this high,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden you feel like, oh, I wanna keep this going. I want to stay relevant. I want to play bigger stages. I want to get more of this, right?
mm-hmm.
And yeah, for me, I was really lucky that I realized this quite soon that I felt like I need to go a bit inward and think about, if I pursue this, what is that gonna do with me, like
Yeah,
mentally? And that's when I realized that it doesn't really matter, how big the stages are that you're playing, how much money you're making, because it's not really gonna feel, it's not gonna make you happy, right?
mm-hmm.
If your happiness depends on that, then it's not real happiness.
Oh, at what age
So
did you find out about this?
oof, I was probably like 28, 29.
I think you're lucky you found out about that at that period of time.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, um, yeah, it's a realization that I was very lucky to have, because if you don't have that, then I don't know, things can go pretty ugly, I think.
Yeah, I think you're going to make decisions based on money and based on getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but that doesn't have
Yeah,
to connect with what you really want,
yeah,
which leads to making the wrong decisions.
yeah, and it's tricky because everyone needs to make a living.
Yep.
But
Yeah, because
yeah, for
what
me,
kind of effect did that have on your career at that moment?
well, I just kind of dropped off the radar a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because I was doing other things that everyone else was doing. So yeah, it's harder to find labels, right, to release your music
Mm-hmm.
because everyone's looking at a certain sound, but you're doing a different sound. So um, those the labels are not. You can't really pick a lot of labels to release your music on. So I released a lot of my music on my own label for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a lot of work too, right? And you really need to push your music well if you want to be able to make that a success. And
Is that something
I'm
you
not,
underestimated?
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, running a label is not easy,
Yeah.
not at all. And I mean, I I'm kind of I was kind of naive at the time, just thinking like, oh, I made this name for myself, and if I just like put my music out there on my label, then it will be noticed, right? People will see it. But it's not that easy, especially in these days of social media. You really just need to like have a lot of focus on that in order for your music to get noticed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just like yeah, no one pays attention to what you're doing if you're
Yeah.
not on those social platforms, just like hyping your music and stuff.
Yeah. True. So your career kind of took a step back as well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you kept making music, and you like you still were making a living out of music at that time, or did you find another job on the side, or?
No, I was still able to make a living out of it because I was still playing gigs, just way less.
Mm-hmm.
And there's you make some money on the royalties and the publishing side.
Yeah.
So I was able to create a steady income, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not always easy. It's just ups and downs,
Yeah. True. And
Yeah.
then from there, like, which moment are we talking? Like 29, 28, maybe 30, 30 years
hmm
old? Okay, and then we take the next step towards where we are now. Like, what happened between your 30s and 34? You're 34 right now, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
What happened in those years?
Um, just kind of trying to reconnect with myself and what is it what kind of music is it that I want to make, and just really trying to find out who I am as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
Just experimenting a lot, which isn't always you don't always succeed when you experiment, but for me it's the only way to go. It's just I can't really copy other people, otherwise
Yeah,
I'll just get really unhappy in what I'm doing.
yeah, I agree. Do you agree with me when I say if you want to know who you are as an artist, you need to know who you are as a person yourself
Yeah, of course.
first?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
you can't do the one without the other.
No, it's it's kind of intertwined, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It's your music is a creative expression of yourself. So if you don't know who you are, then you also don't know what that expression is, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, obviously you get influenced by a lot of things. So I've made music where I listen to it and I'm like, oh, this kind of sounds familiar.
yeah,
And then it turns out in the end that I kind of like copied someone else.
yeah,
But um, if I play it to other people, then they don't hear it
yeah,
because it's influenced. It's not.
yeah,
I didn't like put the track next to the other track and say like, okay, I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna do that.
yeah.
This track has this element, so I'm gonna add this element to my track as well.
There's a very thin line between stealing something and being influenced by.
Yes, definitely.
It's a really
Yeah,
thin line.
yeah. But everyone is influenced by someone.
Yeah, definitely.
Even like the ones that you feel like created their own unique sound, they are all influenced by someone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to take elements from other people's music.
Yeah.
Just you can't copy. I mean, you can copy, but then I don't think people will notice your music.
No,
And
exactly.
it's also not truly you, right? You're
Yeah.
just copying someone else.
Yeah, so that's what you've spent your time on in the last 4 years, to find your true self and to find your true artist self.
Did some proper soul searching,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And what did you find?
Yeah, I'm just gonna quit making music forever.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I kind of went back to my roots, and just I was done because in those times when you kind of drop off the radar, then you're also getting a bit concerned about, okay, I'm in my 30s now, and this is my career, right? I
Yeah.
make music for a living. So it's also something that I need to keep up if I want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So you start thinking about, okay, well, I need to make some music that's going to be accepted or that's going to be relevant. And yeah, I did that for a while, and that's really such uh, a downer for your creative. Um, how do you say it? Like for your creativity.
Yeah.
Like it's just I was listening to music and then just kind of like listening to the elements and okay, maybe I can put something like this in my music, but it wasn't coming from me, it was just
Yeah.
coming from other people's music. So yeah, I had to go back to my roots and just like listen to the music that I used to listen to when I started
Mm-hmm.
making music. And yeah, still kind of like thinking about how can I update this music.
Yeah.
I do like incorporating stuff that's going on right now, but then like maybe pick something from something that you really really love and you grew up on or something, or just like yeah, try to find the influences from different angles.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because you said like try to update your sound. To me, when I heard your new releases, I was like, dude, this is like the old Bart B More in a new jacket, like in the updated 2018 version of the old Bart B More songs, which I really liked. But I think listening to your story, that's your thing, like the thing you started off with for most artists is the thing you want to do the most because that's when you
Yeah,
are untouched. Like
yeah,
you didn't have to deal with managers, you didn't have to deal with labels, and no restrictions. You just made the thing you liked.
yeah.
But it's just really tempting to do other stuff along the way, and that's where a lot of people get lost.
I know. Yeah, there's so much good music out there,
Yeah,
and so many different genres as well, right? So it's hard to stay focused,
yeah,
and yeah, but you grow as a producer as well. Like you learn different techniques, and
hmm
yeah you can apply those techniques on your own sound, and yeah, but yeah, I like the fact that people could hear that a track is Bart B More.
yeah,
It's just
definitely. It's your
it's
signature
cool.
sound. Like I said, I instantly heard this is Bart B More without even knowing it was you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's the great thing. Like that was also a question I got from someone in the Facebook group. I have this Facebook community group. Someone asked me if I wanted to ask you how to stay unique and also be sellable, saleable to the label, because in one hand you want to do the thing you like to do the most, and on the other hand you want to make money as well.
Yeah,
So where do you find that line?
just go to where your inspirations lay. So if you grew up listening to, I don't know, like deep house,
Mm-hmm.
and you're currently making, uh, this is going to be a very bad example. Uh, okay, so if you grew up listening to hard rock or
Mm-hmm.
something, and or heavy metal, and you're a house producer now, maybe like okay, so think about like which sound is current right now,
Hmm.
and then maybe incorporate some like heavy metal
Yeah,
sounds or something, or
try some
um,
different stuff.
yeah, or just sample heavy metal and just put it in a sampler or something and
Hmm.
just play around with it. Just
Yeah,
put some weird effects on it or something and
just see what
see
happens.
see where it takes you.
Yeah, the most beautiful things happen when mistakes are being made.
Yeah,
That's true.
it's also funny. See, if I'm making like a house track
Hmm.
and I want like a cool snare or something, a cool snare drum, then I'm not gonna look in house music sample packs. I'm gonna look like in dubstep sample packs or something,
Yeah,
or like techno sample packs or future bass, whatever.
yeah.
It's just when you take stuff from other genres, then you already find something
Wow, something happened.
that sounds very ominous.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, it kind of relates back to thinking outside of the box as a producer because it's really easy, I think, to if you make deep house, you go to the deep house sample packs.
Yeah,
Like try to think outside of that routine.
yeah, I think that's something that works for me. And I always just kind of, or I always find like a lot of joy in just like adding weird elements to my music, and
Yeah,
it's
oh, it's cool. And
yeah.
and when you make music, do you ever think about what the label's gonna think of it, or is that something you think about when the track's done?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So I make the music first, and then I kind of think about which label would fit with this kind of sound or
Yeah.
kind of track.
Okay, cool. And lately you have been releasing music on Stamped Records and on this. To me, I really like the label This Ain't Bristol, and I noticed you've been releasing there as well,
Yeah.
which is a complete fit in my opinion. Like you fit perfectly there. Um, but you've been releasing a lot on those A-type labels. How did you manage to get in back into the picture with those people? Because that's really hard, I can imagine.
Because I have quite the extensive network by now, which is really really helpful.
From the old days.
Just know a lot of yeah. And the funny thing is that um, were you on the Laid Back Luke forum?
Yeah, I was there, but not that active. But I was there. Yeah.
I was on there for a couple of
Yeah.
years.
Fun story, by the
Uh,
way. You were one of Luke's proteges at that moment, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Just continue.
um, so even the guys who didn't maybe make it as a DJ or a producer,
Hmm.
they're like all now working for like the top
Yeah.
top labels in the industry.
A&R managers, label managers.
Yeah, and I was just like chatting to them on that forum and just like making friends and just like having nerd conversations about music, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're in all these key positions in like big labels in the scene. So
So it was pretty easy for you to get back in touch.
yeah, I was just lucky to make a lot of friends who then like go on and like you know um, get all these positions in labels and stuff.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, well, obviously, your music still needs to be kind of good, otherwise it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's just easy to just write someone and say like, hey, do you have time to listen to my demo or something?
Yeah,
And
exactly. And they actually listen to it instead of just like
yeah,
not throwing it away or whatever.
of course, yeah, they're gonna listen to the people that they already know, and
Yeah.
they're gonna listen to them first, right? So
Cool. And what do you notice? Did anything change in the last few, well, let's say few months, like since you've been releasing on those labels? Did you notice anything changed career-wise?
um, no, well, definitely, I started to get like a lot of positive feedback from fans and from colleagues and other DJs, right? So yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of love for my music at the moment, which
Cool.
is really, really great.
So it's good to
And
be back.
yeah, it's definitely good to be back. Um, yeah, it's just and yeah, those years of not really knowing what kind of music you wanted to make.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy that that is done,
Yeah.
and now I can just like I feel like I'm in a really good vibe right now, and just ready to do some really cool stuff.
Nice, man. Well,
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for taking the time to do this conversation. I really
Oh,
like,
we're done already.
yeah, like unless you
Oh,
want
no
to
way.
tell something more, but I think we completed the whole story.
It's been 30 minutes.
30
Really?
minutes, yeah, yeah.
Oh my God,
We
time
can we,
flies.
we can go deeper if you want to. I'll take the tissues out for the tears and stuff.
We're gonna do some overtime.
No, like I always like to show people the story behind an artist, as in a lot of people don't see what happens before that one hit or before that release. They just see all the moments from that moment on. And I
Yeah.
think the moments before that are more important, and especially the thing you talked about. Like, to me, that was the key thing from this conversation. How you get back into the scene. You just told me, like, networking, like networking is the key. I believe in that thing as well. Like, if you know a lot of people and those people know you, you will get there,
Yeah.
because they will actually check their email. They will actually listen to your song.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the key thing. So you just confirmed it for me.
But networking is also very tricky.
It is, yeah. But how did you approach it? Like, did you approach it with a tactic, or was it something you just did naturally?
Um, well, I was lucky to be introduced a lot by people, and
Okay.
that's really better than just like um, walking up to people yourself.
Yeah.
It's always better to be introduced by someone that they already know.
Yeah.
So
True.
I was really lucky to I was a protege of Laidback Luke, and he introduced me to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, I was very lucky for with his support.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very tricky because you want to have a good network, but you also don't want to be that annoying guy at the
Yeah.
party who's just like, please listen to my music, right? And so it's always better if you're there and then it just kind of happens naturally.
You're just being yourself.
Yeah, just be yourself and
Hmm.
uh, just talk to people and talk to anyone because
Yeah.
not if you see I just gave that example, like all those guys became like
Yeah.
those they had like important positions in
Mm-hmm.
big labels and stuff, so yeah, and at the time they were just like music nerds like
Yeah.
myself as well, so
Do you
it's
know
just
that saying, like, don't never bully the nerd in your class, because you never know where they're gonna end up?
yeah, well, yeah,
That's the
exactly
thing.
like that, yeah.
Yeah. I've heard, where was it? I think it was an example from Steve Jobs or something. Like, someone bullied Steve Jobs in school, and now he's this big guy, and yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. I don't know where it came from, but now, to
yeah,
me, that's just there's a few key things that I see in an artist's career. Networking is a big part of it, and I believe setting up a networking is just making friends. Like, be yourself, be a
yeah,
nice guy, show some decent, true, honest interest in a person's life,
yeah,
and somehow, some way, it will get back to you. Like,
yeah,
for you, it
'cause-
took 10 years to finally use that connection you have,
yeah,
but it ended up being valuable.
yeah, it was never a conscious decision of
Yeah,
me to be nice to people.
yeah,
It
exactly. It's
just
just the way you are.
yeah, I just just treat people with respect, right? And then, yeah, you never know what's gonna come out of it.
Are you going to ADE this year?
Yeah, I am.
Do you have some uh, like do you have some tips for people who go there, who haven't made it yet, who don't have the network you have, but still want to make some kind of impact there? Do you have any tips for them?
It's always better to go when you have something to talk about. So when you already have music out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you hope that people have heard that music and they already like recognize your name and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's just good to mingle, and just like have conversations with people. Doesn't matter who.
Yeah.
Just like talk to people, and you'll get introduced maybe to someone that can help your career. Now we're in a further stage, It's just
10 years from now.
I think the best thing, yeah, I think the best thing is just to mingle
Yeah.
and just like talk to people.
Be yourself and
Uh,
don't be the guy who sells himself there or
yeah, it's tricky because obviously you wanna play your music to people and you want your music to be heard, but it's a thin line between just like networking and just like being annoying.
yeah.
So you have
True.
to be very very careful.
Yeah. It's really subtle, a subtle profession being an artist, There's a lot of subtle things in there. Like
Yeah,
one step too far is too bad, one step less is too bad. Like it's really hard to do
yeah.
it.
It takes people skill as well,
Yeah, true. Yeah.
which is ironic for me because I'm a bit socially awkward. So I don't know
Really?
how I got this far, but
How do you mean you're socially awkward?
I don't know. It's just I rather make music than like talk to people. Right?
Okay.
And just
Well,
a
you're doing a
bit of a
pretty.
loner.
You've been doing a pretty good job for 36 minutes now. So
Okay, well that's good to hear.
yeah. Well, if it's okay with you, we'll finish the conversation here. I really want to
Yeah,
thank you for your time. Like I said before, I'm really happy that you're back in the scene. If you ever went away. Um, and I think you're an inspiration because you just stick to the thing that you like to do the most, and yeah, you're becoming successful with it. You have been successful with it, and now proving it to do again. So, to me, that's a big goal.
well, thanks a lot, man. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No problem, and hopefully see you at ADE.
Definitely.
Have a great day.
See ya. You
Bye.
too. Bye.